Hello, beautiful ladies of Breton Goddess. Welcome to another masterclass. We have today our amazing sister, Jess Taker, who's been with us since the beginning and has given us so much wisdom and knowledge of Agascu to incorporate in our daily life. And today she is here to talk to us about a very important topic that not a lot of medical professionals are talking about. So that is the pelvic floor and how important it is. And we're going to learn from Jess really interesting insights about the female body and how we can take care of our pelvic floor. So whether you have children or you're thinking about children, this class is for you. Jess is a master trainer with the Agascu training method, and she's been helping healing others with this powerful method since 2007. So with that, please help me to welcome Jess Taker. Thank you, sister.
Thank you, Claudia, for that beautiful. I'm going to put us on gallery so I can see everybody. Feel free to turn your cameras on. We want to make this interactive, and I wanted to tell you my reasoning for, starting this discussion. It's the awkward discussion of the vagina and the muscles around the vagina, right? And personally, I've had since my third son, I've had some serious pelvic floor instability. And through that process, I have had to emotionally and physically deal with myself, deal with medical professionals. And it got to a breaking point in about August of last year. And I was just at the point where I didn't understand anymore. I thought I understood the body. I thought I could heal everything, right? And I just wasn't, but I had stopped asking. I had stopped asking for help. So I had gone quiet for 2 years. And at that point in August, I was in so much pain. I had so many different things going on that every time I spoke about it, I was in tears. Medical professionals were just saying, we don't know. We don't know why you have pain. Maybe it's your pelvic floor. Maybe it's this. Like just kind of throwing me to the wind. And so I went on my own journey and basically really figured out again, what I do as a therapy and how it can align with every modality and align with the traditional medicine if we start asking questions. And I just started asking. And I didn't think any question was a bad question. I didn't think I could ask enough. I didn't think I could see enough people, and I was open to everything. I went alternative. Hence Miss Jessalyn in my life, right? That's going to be considered alternative, right? And I went completely traditional. And for someone in my world to say that I saw a physical therapist, I saw a physical therapist. So I just surrendered and I really got into my own body. And so for me, that journey has just brought me to talk about pelvic floor with all of my clients, with my male clients, with my female clients, moms and their kids. Like, I don't care. I'm just like, this muscle is so big. So I wanted to just, because there may be some people that don't know Agascu, I wanted to step back and kind of talk about this method, where I come from and where my belief is. Agascu is a therapeutic exercise where we train your whole body through motion. So we treat the body as a whole and we treat it through positional movement. If they're active, if they're passive, whatever we need. And then we train it to be, to walk, to sit, right? Like we retrain the habits but again, from the whole body down. And what I learned in my journey is I just stopped requesting support. And I just started saying, I don't know what's happening. I'm just going to deal with it later. Quietness, right? So even in my own journey, I questioned my own method. I went all the way to the top and I spoke with a 70-year-old man about my vagina. If you want to talk about uncomfortable conversations, that's probably one that you'll put in the books for uncomfortable. But I was just like, I don't know what's going on. Do I need surgery? Do you think that I need surgery? And Egoscue, our whole life is about moving and training the body and not needing surgery as an option. We would say surgery is a possibility if there's breakdown and you can't heal it, maybe you need it, but we look for alternative first. So I really got back into, my 8 laws that I run my life on. Pete is now pretty much my therapist, right? Pete Egoscue is our founder. And I am doing and adding everything. But I wanted to ask everybody if you guys knew, and please come off mute, if you actually know any of the symptoms for pelvic floor problems. Connie's saying, yes, I see it. Yeah. The big ones, Connie?
Yes.
Yeah, the big ones like incontinence, right? Means we're not going to the bathroom, but you can be the complete opposite. And then, we all seem to know the big ones. And we go, okay, so I'll list them for you girls. Cause I don't know if Allie or I saw Claudia shaking her head. She didn't know very many. So let's talk of them. Give me a second. I have them written down. Boop. Boop. Right. So you're going to have incontinence means we're not going to the bathroom, right? Like we're holding it in, but you can be the opposite, right? Because pelvic floor is a stabilizer. This is a muscle in your body that is holding your 3 major things: your bladder, your uterus, and your bowels. So the reason why, too, Connie might think of, we only think of it as pregnancy, right? Because the uterus and things, but reality is it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And in my journey, yes, my pelvic floor started to break down on my 3rd child. But what I now realize is I never got my pelvic floor back after my 1st child to be stabilizer again. I never recruited it in conscious thought. I never went there and said, let's do exercise. I went just like normal. I'm a mom. Here, let's go. And then, there goes the 2nd one. And the 3rd one, they were basically almost bedridden me because he wanted to come out at like 21 weeks. And even in my modality, I didn't realize or didn't say, well, that doesn't make sense. What's happening? What's breaking down, right? So, okay, so we'll go to some of the symptoms. That's the causes. Hold on. Oh, my kid's playing with my phone. Hold on. But I also only knew the big ones. And when someone said to me incontinence, I was like, I poop. And then basically I had, the gynecologist going up there and going, no, there's still a lot of poop up there. I'm going, are you sure? Like, really? So sometimes basically we only know when it goes bad. And when it goes bad, basically you feel heavy pressure in your bowels, and you basically feel them coming in, coming down, like it giving up. So people are going, I only know that there's a pelvic floor issue if it's going crazy. Now, it's a muscle, girl. This is where I get like, kind of like, oh my God, it's a muscle. Where have I been in the last 17 years of my life or wherever? Because I've just woken up to this. It's a muscle. It contracts, it releases, it can spasm, it can have a knot, layers into the tissue, right? Like you can have all of these things going on. And the reality is 1 out of 4 of us, because there's 4 of us, right? Well, I already had mine, but we can say I didn't. 1 out of 4 of us has a pelvic floor issue. And we probably don't know about it. The one that blew my mind, and this is one that I was trying to convince the doctors that I was both. Like I had both, right? I had the instability and it feeling like it was stretching. And I also had one, which let me know, girls, if you know hypotonic pelvic. Yeah, Claudia's like, what? I know. Oh, sorry, Magda. I knew you were talking. I didn't get it. Yeah, right. Just drops. Your uterus starts falling down. Like, so hypotonic means it's contracting all the time and it's too tight. So girls, I know we talked about this in one of the red tents. I remember being there and being like, it's the sex talk. Let's get serious. If you are having any pain, not pleasurable pain, pain during, after, if it's too deep, whatever you want to put your brain to on that discussion, if there is pain, that is too tight. The muscle is not able to relax. And that is also something that can create an instability in your pelvic floor. Because this is the new one that people are not diagnosing. And I tried to explain to them that I felt like I had something going on and it was pain. There was always pain in sex. And I can't actually tell you a time that there wasn't, that my conscious brain. So I'm going to only give that 2 years because I'm a mom, right? Like 2 years of remembering. But you go, there shouldn't be. So ones that were really, really, I had to write them down because I was like, what the hypo? Because remember, that's like, it's too tight, it's contracting, it can't actually relax. You can have endometriosis, could be a symptom, fibroids, irritable bowel, right? A labral tear in your hip. And you can get that in birth and you can get that walking around. That's the hip muscles themselves. Now this one just blew my mind because I was like, oh God, if you're clumsy, right? Or you do something and you injure your coccyx and you wouldn't even think about it. You could have, now I'm just saying could, because doesn't mean that we're going to have this, but you could create an instability in your pelvic floor. And if it's painful for your urination. So remember, so the pelvic floor is here. If you take your hand and imagine it down there, this is the stability. This is what's holding everything up. It's holding my bladder. It's holding my uterus, and then it's holding my bowels back, right? It's just mind-blowing to me that no one's talking about the symptoms. Nobody, or a bubble comes out. I don't know where that one came from, Magna, but like, I don't know, bubble comes out. That's crazy. But you go, girls, these are things. This is a muscle that needs activation. And even I had forgotten of it. Because when I talk to clients, and Claudia will know, when I talk to clients, a lot of times I'm talking about the hip muscles, but I'm not including that. I'm not including the pelvic floor even in my discussion. And I was like, why? So giant holder of, to me, the earth, right? Now, if I were in my younger days and I was having pain in sex, I was having lower back pain, I was getting cysts, I was getting fibroids, like these things were occurring, or my period was creating cramps so intense, I would want to know now, I would want to know, how is my pelvic floor? You can do a self-check. You can go to the gynecologist and you can ask. It's amazing to me that the gynecologists do not bring it up traditionally. I have an alternative doctor who's, I think is the only reason why I've caught this, that he brought it up before I got pregnant with my last son. But I got pregnant and they were like, well, we'll do our best, right? But you go, we got to bring it up. We got to ask. We got to see where we're at. If you're having any of the symptoms, my biggest thing is to start, my biggest request, I guess, and this is from my experience, start asking questions. Start getting into your bodies. And that's where I think I get so passionate, because with Egoscue, we want to get into your body, get back in, and you can heal it, and you can add people in your arsenal, whatever you want to call it, your group that will support you, because you are taking control of your body again, and not allowing someone to just tell you later you need a mesh to hold your uterus up, you need a mesh to push your bladder back in, right? Or push your bladder up and push your bowels back in. Like, you don't want to get that far. And if you are that far, you want to see what I can do maybe before I go that far. Is there any way I can stimulate it? Because I'm literally, and this is, I hope my mom doesn't mind me saying, I'm watching my mom who has the mesh. It's embodied now into her body, and now they can't do anything for her, and it's collapsing again. And you just go, holy shit. Sorry. Ooh, I don't know if we're allowed to swear. I think we are. Holy cow, right? Like, sorry, Claudia, I know you love me, but you go, holy cow, because if you ask a medical professional, that mesh is it. That's all you need. You never need anything else. That thing's embodying it, embedding into her. Her body is absorbing it. That's what I mean, right? Like, it's going back in, and it's literally falling down. So to me, I'm like, what do you do? Take it out of the muscle? Like, you can't take it out of the muscle. It's in the muscle. Now you're like, where are we getting? Like a cadaver? Like, where are we going with this? Like, my brain always does. She loves me. Deep. It's deep. Because I've sent her to some like stuff being like, just go here, just go there. Okay, do your exercises. Like, I'm her biggest cheerleader. So I also I wanted to talk to you guys also about, I'm trying to look at my little list because I go off on a tangent. So I'm like, all right, come back to life. Some people don't even know how it could be, how, like, what makes it get dysfunctional. When we say dysfunctional in my world, it just means that the muscle has forgotten its job. It's not bad or wrong. It's just, it's forgotten. And so when a pelvic floor instability, when it has forgotten its job, not hypo, it's gotten its job so tight, it actually forgotten to release also, but you go, does anybody know how you get there or have any ideas? Connie said maybe yes. I know she does. So I'll give you some. Obviously, I already said one. Pregnancy can be a big factor, mostly because of the weight of the baby pushing down on the uterus, which is pushing down on the pelvic floor. And if we lived in France, we would all have had pelvic floor therapy after our births. We don't. Or I don't know, Claudia, I'm not sure. Maybe we have someone, maybe like one or two. Who knows? Maybe we're going to international now. But they're actually stimulating, like making sure these women's pelvic floor is taken care of after birth. Traditionally in the US, and I'm going to throw Canada in there just because I don't think they're doing it either. You just don't do anything. I had my founder ask me, did I get an MRI of my pelvis so that I could know where my ligaments and my muscles were at? After I stopped crying, I was like, well, that seems logical. No, of course I didn't. And my medical professionals didn't even suggest it, yet they were telling me my bowels were moving into my uterus and into my space. And I'm like, that's interesting. No, and I said, why, Pete? Why do you want to know if I got that MRI? And he's like, you've carried 3 children. You've delivered all 3 of them vaginally. If you don't know, that's coming out the hole, right? Coming that way. And I didn't do an epidural, so there was no, there was no drugs. But my second one, I pushed pretty hard, pretty fast because I wanted the doctor to leave. But anyway, but he goes, how do you know that you didn't tear anything? And I was like, holy shit. Again, like the light bulbs were starting to go off. Like I didn't ask. I didn't check. So like if somebody on here or somebody that's listening and feels that they have significant problems going on, like go to the lengths. Like push your doctors to say, what do you think? Do you think there's a tear down there? Like, do you? Because there's a different way to treat it when it's torn, right? There's a different way to treat it when it's stretched and lengthened. And that's where I was telling them I felt like I had both. My bowels were pushing in, yet when I contracted, I could feel weird things happening and I could do an anal Kegel like the best of them. So anyway, so pregnancy, and I don't mean this in any bad way, but obesity, when you gain extreme amounts of weight, right, that can affect the pelvic floor. Doesn't always have to, but it can. If you're chronically constipated or you hold it, those people, not gonna poop at work, right? Gonna hold it till I get home. That's holding it in. That's muscle has to actually hold it there. So you're like can be causing damage to your own body by doing that. Now, some people there are those that are straight up constipated. And again, it's the use of the muscle and how it's working. Childbirth. And also one that was interesting to me, but made sense. If your hormone levels are off, that affects your pelvic floor. And for me, this journey has just become eye-opening. I'm no longer opposed to something traditional as long as I'm asking questions. I'm not opposed to something completely what others would call left wing, right? Or off alternative or all that, because our pelvis, our pelvic floor, our uterus, our hips, wherever you want to place it in your mind, holds so much energy. It produces life. It produces, hormones, like everything's coming out of there. So that's why, like, whatever supports you. So those were some of my things. I have more, but I just wanted to see, does anybody have any questions? I get a little excited. I apologize. You can bleep me, Claudia, when you like listen to the listen. Any questions, Connie or Magda or Ali? I know she might have to jump off with her daughter. Maybe not. Okay. All right. Do you have any questions, Ali? Okay. All right. I'm trying to make this fun, this pelvic floor discussion. So I thought we would talk about what things, and then we're going to go into some exercise. I'm sorry, Claudia. I realized like I could go for days, but really the meats and potatoes are pretty short and sweet. So are we in trouble if we're not a 2-hour talk? Probably not. Okay. All right, girls. So what I do in a therapy, oh, no worries. For what I do, which I will tell you girls, all of the things that I have brought into my world to support me in my pelvic floor. There are actually PTs, physical therapists, that are specific to pelvic floor. And in that world, just so you're aware, it's like every world, there are ranges of people and there are ranges of techniques. There are ranges of modalities that they do. But I was very adamant of what I had felt was going to be the best supporter for me. But when you go to a physical therapist, you know, most of the time, I'm going to say most of the time, but it's really kind of should be 100% of the time, pelvic floor therapy is covered by your insurance, and it should be for a reason. This is a significant thing. Now, insurance wise, they traditionally want you to be in pain or have a problem, unfortunately, for you to get the therapy. But you should speak to your doctor and speak to or your gynecologist, your health professional about your symptoms that you're seeing, even if they're not noticing them, so that you can get these therapies. I have done 2 different types of physical therapy for my vagina. And one was more of a stimulation. And then, so basically they insert you with a stimulator, and then you are looking to Kegel around it and stimulate it, and it's igniting the muscles, because they felt that mine were not able to hold a Kegel and had any support. But I also saw another physical therapist who used this beautiful thing called the dolphin. It was like 2 little wands of energy that she was working the fascia along my diaphragm and working the meridian lines. So letting my body use its energy to break up the fascia and scar tissue. And I know that most of us, I don't know if this is okay, but like our belly buttons get stretched out, right? From pregnancy and things like that. And so she was actually breaking up all of my scar tissue along there before now in her modality, she does that. Then she does some manual releases, right? And techniques. And then from there, she'll work on traditional, strengthening of the pelvic floor. So I had these 2, to me, they were significantly different. One who was taking something and manually stimulating my pelvic floor and my vagina. Another one where we were using my energy lines and breaking up fascia and letting it heal. And in that, she reminded me of how your body looks when you get a scar. Your scar actually starts to go down from wherever it is, almost like a tree, and then will embed itself as it heals. I'm going to be completely wrong, but I'm going to say it's like it actually takes much longer than the scar itself to create this tree. So we'll put it at 6 months, but I think it's more like 2 years that it actually is done. So if you have had a C-section and you've cut your abdominal wall, right? Now you're having a scar tissue coming down into your intestines. I don't know about most of you, but if you send a tree roots down into my intestines, that's really gonna make it a little more complicated. And someone else is gonna tell me it's my digestion, it's my gut, and maybe not think about those roots coming down from the scar. So for me, I felt like this woman was like what I needed to know. She was telling me about how the scar was going down and how I have scars through my belly button, through my abdominal wall. And because in my pregnancy, I had separated my abdominal wall so much that I had 4 inches on the top and 3 inches on the bottom. So she's like, as that's healing, if it's not healing properly, there could be scar tissue there. So she's working that line down my stomach. So I brought her in. I brought Miss Jessalyn into my world because I, again, am not opposed to, not that it isn't anything made up, because it's energy and it serves you, and it's your reality and thoughts and things like that, and things that you bring in from your ancestors. You can hide them, because we believe at Egoscue, if muscles move everything, muscles can also store stories and things. So as she was breaking things up, absolutely. And I was having a shooting pain in my abdominal, like in my uterus, and I didn't have a kid there. I didn't have a cyst. I did all those things to check to make sure. It was like there was pain. So I did a session with Jessalyn and she released my pain. That was, we're going to call it ancestral. I don't know where that came from, but they were just there. So, but after that, I was released with my pain, and now I could start dealing with my body and helping my body and helping its symptoms and helping it learn. Because when I look at these symptoms, I always had pain in sex. I always had heavy bleeding, heavy cramping. I just didn't go anywhere to see if I had endometriosis, probably. Like I look at these and go, well, yeah, my doctor wasn't probably checking any of this, because I was going to one of those groups where there were like 12 of them. You never see the same person. And I just thought that was like how it was supposed to be. Now I'm at a smaller practice with one person, with one physician's assistant, and he checks my pelvic floor anytime I ask and lets me say, it's not good. I don't know where we're going, what's happening, right? And then I brought in, more of our modality, but the reality was I had to actually tell everybody what was going on in my body, right? Be honest with myself. And he, my founder was like, can you turn your neck side to side? And I was like, can I move my shoulders while I do that? And he's like, no, like turn your head. I was like, not always. He's like, okay. And he again told me to go get the MRI. I didn't have, hey Trish. Yeah, I didn't have any tears. So that was really cool. So, all right. Hey Trish.
Hi, beautiful.
Hi. All right, well, we're coming in, girls. Do you want me to catch you up, Trish? I don't know if you heard. I couldn't tell if you were on or not on.
It was not, but that's okay. I'm late. All good.
You are good. Well, the gist is we're going to do some exercises, because that's kind of what I do. And we're going to talk more. I make up that you girls showed up because maybe you're curious if you have any things going on, or you've had things going on, or you don't know and you want to know. Like, I think this is a discussion that we all should have. One of the biggest things that my husband really loves when I do this, but if you have a male partner, they also have a pelvic floor. They don't acknowledge it until it's broken down. But it might be just something for them. They would have similar symptoms, right? Like if you're having the incontinence, pain, anything in that aspect, they should notice it. Because one of the things in the PTs that I was receiving when she went into manually release, I had knots in my anal wall in like layers of the tissue. Because remember, it's not always one layer, it's layers upon layer. Like our bodies, our muscles everywhere holding the bone up. It's not bone and the muscles are on the inside, right? Like the muscles are on the outside, but the pelvic floor is like the bowl that we have to keep it to, keep its integrity. And truthfully, one of my biggest requests is really, if you think that you need support, communicate to people. Don't stay quiet. I stayed quiet for a very long time. But once I started asking, people started appearing. Jessalyn appeared in my life. These PTs appeared in my life. Pete Egoscu, my founder, who I wouldn't want to call because, right, like I see him like my dad, like I got to tell him about stuff. But they were so supportive and they didn't want me to suffer. And neither did my doctor. But he couldn't find where my pain was. And that was just something that was really, really cool. Yeah, it was energy when it came down there. And it's such a cool thing. So you just add it in, and knowledge. And for me, it's reminded me that when I look at my body as a whole, and I treat it as a whole, and I treat it as a sacred temple, right? This is the only one I get in this life. So I have to treat it with love and respect the whole time. And I had stopped doing that. And that's why I went on this journey. So I wanted to do some exercises. So Trish, I'll catch up real fast. My vagina was going to somewhere not good. And basically I went on this journey of pelvic floor. And it's been magical, lots of tears, exciting. And I just now see how important it is for us to get in tune with our bodies and to get in our bodies and to make sure that if we feel like that wasn't enough, like someone comes to you and you just don't feel like that was enough or that didn't fit you, then you have to just turn to the next option, turn to your support team, turn to the sisterhood, right? And put it out there. So yeah. So we are going to do, I don't know, I see Trisha's at home. Connie, are you anywhere that you can do some exercises? Okay, you're in the office. All right, I think that's what I saw you say. So the idea is, if you can snag maybe a pillow or something, a roll of paper towel if you're in the office, Connie, we're going to grab a pillow. I'm going to turn my camera down here. I'm going to turn me up just so then we can go from there. And we're just going to need like one pillow and space and maybe a wall. Oops, I forgot to grab mine. And then when Trish comes back, I'll tell her. My biggest term that I learned during my journey, Trish, was hypotonic. It's when your pelvic floor is so tight, it doesn't actually let go. So what was happening to me I was doing anal Kegels, which I had thought would be supportive, but because my pelvic floor didn't have knowledge on one side and was getting too tight, like in different spots and places, I was causing some of my own pain through just not figuring out what was going on. And once I got some treatment, one of the major ones that I was in love with was with this physical therapist for PT or pelvic floor, used these two little wands, basically I'm going to call them, called the dolphin. And she was breaking up scar tissue in my diaphragm, down my abdominal wall, through my hips. And it was using my meridian line. And it was just magical in all aspects because of how scar tissue grows like a tree. So it was crazy. And then now we're working, like I'm able to work my pelvic floor. So it's really cool. For anybody who doesn't know, I put these back here, but just more because this is like my life. Now I do talk a lot more about the vagina and the pelvic floor in my therapy, just in case anyone wants to know, but really it's a muscle. So it has a contract and release that it should do. It has a pulley system with other things, like the pelvic floor and the abdominal wall are like the pulleys. So for us ladies, when our abdominal wall is too tight, right? Or it's not tight at all, right? Mine had separated during one of the pregnancies, well, the second two, and it was like 4 inches up and 3 inches at the bottom, and it was not connected. There's also an instability going on with your pelvic floor. So you have to create support in both, right? Like I need my abdominal to work and I need my pelvic to work, but I also need them to work independently and not one overpower the other. So those are the two major dynamic players when it comes to your pelvic floor. And for me was the diaphragm. For a lot of us ladies, it becomes a stabilizer. You hold your breath, you tighten, you tuck, whatever. Your diaphragm runs under your rib cage and is right here. And if it becomes a stabilizer, then your abdominal wall stops. Then your pelvic floor stops working. So it was mind-blowing because I felt like I was learning again. Yet I knew all of this, but it was like, what? I forgot how much. And if that was tight or had scar tissue or needed work, we need to break it up. So from some of us ladies, like, if you're too tight, I imagine, or makeup, this is also too tight. So if you're having one of the biggest symptoms that you can kind of go, doop, that makes sense. If you're having any pain in sex, Trish, that's what it is. That is the hypotonic big one. And it's a new thing that they are learning about because we're talking about the pelvic floor. And now there are PTs that just want to kind of treat, and they talk to you in ways that I was not prepared. I'm not going to lie. We talked about how to poop, right? Like what's the proper angle and position, and that's an action, that's a muscle release. So you go, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So I'm open to tell you if you want. We'll do some exercises, and then we'll talk about pooping. No, I'm just kidding. But Claudia's like, man, this has gone south. You love me. Okay, if you can grab your pillow, we're gonna lay down. If you have space, if you do not, like, that's okay. You can try these later. There are some great YouTubes, right, for some exercises for pelvic floor. Generally, most people only think about Kegels, but in our world, it's the combination. It's the what muscle it has to play. Like when you're pulling, you're using two muscles. One is pulling, contracting, and one is releasing. So when your pelvic floor is not engaging, what is engaging? And then what do I need to engage or properly train? So traditionally, it's going to be your abdominals, your diaphragm, your hip flexors, and then your pelvic floor. So we will do hook line, which is laying on your back with your knees bent, feet flat. I think you can still see me, right? Yeah, I think so. Okay. I want you to grab the pillow and you're going to put it between your knees. So honestly, it could be any pillow that you want. You're going to lay on your back with your knees bent, feet flat, palms up to the sky. Let your head rest back, and you're going to squeeze and release. So when we lay in hook line, traditionally this helps to put our pelvis into a more neutral position so that we can engage muscles around it and down it. So you're going to squeeze and release. Squeeze and release.
What are we squeezing here? So we squeezing our legs against the pillow?
Yeah, around the pillow. Yep. So
Okay, we're squeezing our legs to the pillow.
Yep.
Okay, I didn't know if we were doing our abdominal muscles. Okay, got it.
Oh, no. So this one, you actually want to keep your abdominals relaxed, Trish. So we're going to start engaging some of the hip muscles around your pelvis, and then we're going to do some abdominals, then we're going to do some hip flexors. And traditionally, in most of the exercises that we'll do, your pelvic floor will engage, but not actively, more as a stabilizer. Because again, if it becomes too tight all the time, then it's not going to release, or something else is going to hold on. So you're just going to squeeze and release the pillow. How you doing over there? That puppy is so cute. Good. Here we go. And then we're going to try. You all right, Mom? So we're going to squeeze and release. You all right, Magla? Are you getting hurt while you're squeezing it? We'll write her a little note. Oh, true. Could be. Thanks, Claudia. We'll just check. Okay. So when you're squeezing, you're going to squeeze and release on the pillow. Now we're going to go for abdominal crunches. So now this time, Trish and Claudia and everyone, you are going to be engaging the abdominal wall. So you're going to lace your hands behind your head, or you can just have your fingers right around your head. You're going to look behind you, and we're going to do a small crunch, but at the same time, you're going to pick your legs up. So you're going to just do a small crunch up, and you want to keep your gaze behind you. At the same time, your legs are going to come up off the floor. So you're going to kind of crunch up and down. Good. So when you're working the pelvic floor, the reason why we kind of pick up our legs also is we're working those abdominal wall, right, to stabilize you. But when you're dropping your legs, you're actually using your hips and your pelvic floor to kind of stabilize it down. So we're working both muscles and asking them to work different times.
And are we pushing our legs together and holding the pillow as we're lifting the legs? Are we squeezing as well?
Engage it about 20%, Trish, and you pick it up and put it down.
So very tight, very slightly hold the pillow. Okay.
Slightly hold the pillow just to get it engaged. And then you'll pick it up, put it down at the same time. You really want, if you have any abdominal wall separation, obviously you want to be really careful with your neck and making sure that you're not pulling on that, because you'll pull your cervical spine probably when you're trying to move. So you're going to pick up, put it down. Good. Squeeze gently and breathe. Really get your diaphragm to move. Good. Go up and down. Perfect. Up and down. Good. Good. And then we're actually going to take the blocks again. This time it's called a bridge. I think people have done it in yoga. You're going to pick your hips up so that you're parallel and then gently release them down. At the top, you're going to feel your glutes engage. You might feel your abdominals a little bit, but you want to let them engage separately if you can. So you don't want to feel your glutes till right at the top, and you might feel yourself squeeze your glutes. And as you're going down, you're going to go nice and gentle and go slow. Again, it's like it has to stabilize. What we're doing is asking for the abdominals and the pelvic floor to kind of pick you up, the glutes to hold you there. And then as you drop down, we're asking for the hips and the pelvic floor to stabilize, to put you back down. So you can have your hands down to your side, you can have them behind your head, whatever is comfortable for your hands. You're just gonna pick your hips straight up and go straight down. Good. Picking it up, putting it straight down, nice and gentle. Good, and breathe. Notice if for some reason this is not comfortable for you or irritates your lower back, you don't want to continue. But you definitely want to notice where in your body is working, because really my whole reason for doing this talk is to kind of request you girls to get aware of your body. Where do you have any pain or discomfort? Where is it really coming from? Because where the pain is might not be the source of the problem. And if you can't, when you pick up, maybe if your glutes don't engage, like if something is not working or engaging itself, just notice it, because then you can actually start to figure out what's happening in your body. Good, and breathe. And then what we'll do is after you do probably about 20 or 30 of those, you would hold it up for a constant 30 seconds. So we would hold it up and engage. You will feel your glutes engage. You should feel your abdominals a little bit to keep you up there, right? And we put the pillow there to get your hips to engage as well. If you're feeling your neck and shoulder, then you're not able to stay there as long, right? You're not able to get that position or hold that position as much. And then you're going to just gently roll it down. Good. Ooh. All right, and then I just added this one because we were doing a lot of hip work. This is not necessarily a pelvic floor exercise. It's called the frog. You're going to put your pillow to the side. You're just going to put the soles of your feet together and put them on the ground and let your knees kind of open up. So you kind of open up. I think in yoga, you guys call this the butterfly. We call it the frog. But what I find about this exercise, when you really get in tune with your structure, is the way that you can feel if your hip and pelvis is off. So you should feel an equal arch behind each of your hips. If you feel like one is pushing further forward than the other one, it's indicating to you that your base, your pelvis, is off. So that indicates to us, and if you want to think about it in your pelvic floor, that there's a potential for an instability, that one side is twisted, right? Or one side is elevated or tilted forward. That muscle runs right inside those two hips. That means it's pushing or pulling, or could be tight on one side and loose on the other, right? So in here, if you feel that they're not even, a lot of the times we can do some switch in your thoracic to kind of open that up. So you can take your hands and clasp them together. And then you're going to just gently reach over your head and exhale out and bring it straight back up. So again, this one is not necessarily for your pelvic floor, but I thought when I was writing this that it was a really good indicator if you were curious where your hip and pelvis were positioned and kind of how that would work. And then generally when you reach over your head, you're going to feel an arch in your lower back. And then as you do that back and forth over 20 to 40 times, usually you'll stop and you'll start to feel that your pelvis is more neutral. For us in my world, it reminds me or kind of reconfirms that the body is so connected in so many ways. That position, changing your upper body and back, shifted your hip and pelvis, which then shifts how your pelvic floor is positioned. So you'll stop that exercise and you're going to gently kind of roll your knees up. So my journey with my pelvic floor and my journey in my own world and how I trained Egoscue really started to shift because, everything can help you indicate if there is something in your body that's out of position. If it's your pelvic floor, if it's your cervical spine, if it's, your big toe, whatever it is, they play such a part that if you don't indicate to yourself or communicate to yourself or get in your body enough to go, well, how am I supporting that? Instead of just saying, I have tight upper back and neck. Where does that upper back play compared to my lower body and this? And if I'm having pains or discomforts that are symptoms of pelvic floor, yes, I can treat it traditionally, but sometimes you can go into the pelvic floor PT and obviously you want a miracle and you want them to fix it and it doesn't go away, right? Or the pain doesn't go away or something doesn't, maybe whatever you were looking for might not happen. So that's where you have to step back and go, the pelvic floor supports these three major things. What also does it play a part with? My abdominal wall, my diaphragm, my hip flexors around my pelvis. And then the game that I play at my work is how do those correlate to something else? Is the femur out of position? Is the foot out of position? Is the head out of position? Because all of those can start to compound on as instability or over contraction in the pelvic floor. So we did that frog just for some of you to feel like if you didn't feel equal, then somewhere else is not in the place it needs to be to support that. And then when you're going for whatever therapy you're going for or whatever you're looking for, you could go, well, okay, this is my one body I get in this lifetime. How am I treating it? Where am I at? What have I added? What am I doing? Where, and then if I'm supporting myself, because I have no problems with the energy work, if I'm supporting myself in the energy work and I'm still not getting the shift I want there, why? Well, to me, if the structure is out of alignment, I'm going to impinge those energy lines all the way in different places. And then I'm going to ask for a channel to come up my leg, and it's going to get stuck at my knee, or it's going to get stuck in my hip, or it's not going to go out, or I'm going to be asked to be grounded, but then my feet aren't even on flat on the ground. You know, like it's just one of those where it just starts. Yeah, I could go for days. Okay, so we'll do another pelvic floor exercise because I love me. I didn't swear this time, Claudia, so at least I didn't do that. It's just like where it could take you and where you want to go. Just start asking questions. Okay, so we've got 3 more pelvic floor exercises. And then, you know, we can open it up for discussion or conversation or, you know, whatever it goes. I'm not opposed. So this is called hand leg opposite lifts. So it's really fun. And it's really challenging. So the number that you do could be like 4 for all intensive purposes. But what you're doing is engaging the core and your pelvic floor to stabilize while you're moving your legs and moving your arms in like a cross patterning. So you're going to reach one arm and it's going to go straight out from your ear. At the same time, your opposite leg is going to pick up. But what you want to notice is you're not going to pick the hip up so it rotates out. You're going to pick the leg and put it straight back so your hips are flat. So you're going to reach them out. And what I like to do is imagine that there's like a string right in the center of my abdominals, and I'm lengthening from there. And I am going to engage my core to stabilize. And I'm not picking my hip up so that my hip flexor starts working. Going to point my toes if I need. Good. And you're going to bring that arm right by your ear. And you're going to hold it for 10 seconds. And then we're going to switch. So 10 seconds is a long time. So if it's too long for you, build up. And you're going to basically remember, imagine that there's a string in the center of your belly button. And you're going to reach your arm and your leg out from that string at the same time. Going to bring your arm right by your ear, your leg straight back. Don't let the hip pop up. Engage your core and breathe through your nose. Good. Breathe in. Good. And then release that and gently kind of bring it back in. Let's try for one more on each side, just for fun. It's after 8, so it's fun for me. All right, let's reach the arm, extend the leg. Good. Breathe, really try to hold that arm out. Look straight down. You don't want to look up. That will create tension in your neck. And then drop that down. And then you're going to extend your arms out and your leg out again. So I'm left arm, right leg. Good. Breathe. Good. And then gently drop that down. So I don't know in the group if we talk about the diaphragm, right? This is the stabilizer right here, the muscle that runs right along your rib, right under your rib cage. For when your pelvic floor is too tight, right? Generally, they find a tightness in your diaphragm. So when you're thinking about things, or when we think about things, like breath is important to oxygen getting everywhere and moving, and energy work wise, oxygen shifts, right? So really creating, if you're not doing a breath work, but a slow, deliberate, and we call it, oh my gosh, the Egoscue name just left. Don't tell Brian Bradley or Pete Egoscue. I totally just, it's gone. I know, right? You're going to tell him, go tell him. I don't know. I can't remember. Oh my gosh, totally forgot. But what I find is either of you have to sit, right? So that you can feel your belly. Or if you cannot, or it's not comfortable, you can also do this kind of in hook line and your breath pushes into the ground. But I prefer sitting. We're going to three-dimensional breath, right? You're going to breathe in. And when you push it down, you're going to push it into your belly and make your belly expand forward, out to the sides, out to the back. And then exhale out, breathe out through your mouth. So what it's doing is when you push down, you're pushing your diaphragm. So you're not becoming such a chest breather, right? So you're going to breathe in. Bring it all directions. And then exhale out. Good. And we'll go breathe in and really try to feel that breath in all the directions around you. And then exhale out. I'm trying to think of the breath again. Still trying to think of the name we use. I love that I cannot remember it. Keep breathing. So when you do this, right, breath is amazing and we're given it as a gift, right? And truly oxygen needs to go into all of our cells. You know, we need to not have it as a stabilizer for us as females. We tend to make that our stabilizer. So it's like moving that, you know, really everything that I speak about is just making sure that you're getting into your body. Because if you don't know where you breathe, then you should start checking it. If you can't breathe into these spots, like, why? Like, start asking yourself that, like, why can't I do that? All right. You know, it's not going to be your mom and it's not anyone's fault and it's not bad or wrong. It's just start getting curious so that you can start going, well, what does that affect? What would that affect if I'm always tight there? What else would come about? What else would like play in my body so that I can start releasing and moving and shifting to the life that I want to have? Because maybe I'm holding back, right? And we're going to do 2 more exercises. We're going to do cat and dog now, which is cat and cow in yoga. And no, it's not stimulating, meaning like making the pelvic floor engage in like thought consciousness, we'll say. But when you're in cat cow, pelvically, we're asking for your pelvis to move. We're asking for your spine to move. And again, those are muscles in between that, right? That need to move together and work in synchronicity with your upper back, your lower back, your hip flexors, your pelvis, you know, like all of these things have to kind of flow, ebb and flow. And if they're not, they need to start syncing that way so that when I go vertical, my pelvic floor is doing what it needs to do and stabilize. So we're going to do cat and dog, and I love it. I'm just going on my own little tangents. It's hilarious. Okay, so with the way that I know you love me, Trish, the way that we do cat and dog, which is cat and cow in yoga, toes are trailing behind you. Hips are right below your knees. Your knees are only a fist width apart. So bring your knees. Traditionally, you're going to bring them as wide as you think your hips are, but we're just going to go where the femur comes out. And now you're going to place your hands directly under your shoulders. For anyone who has wrist issues, you could always do a fist, right? And you want to have your fists facing each other if you can. And when you're in this position, you ideally want to separate all your fingers and spread them out. We're finding more and more carpal tunnel, right? Things like that where we're not able to. Think about what makes that move. My thumb has to move my wrist, which has to move my lower arm, which has to move my elbow, which has to move this, right? Like move up the chain because it's probably up here or it's down across your hip muscle. So it's kind of fun. Where the source of the problem is usually not where the pain or discomfort or symptom is not always the reason or the source. So anyway, so you're going to stay here and you're going to arch your back up and kind of tuck your chin to your chest, but don't let your hips bail behind. You're going to roll right up over on top of your pelvis, tuck your chin to your chest. Let your pelvis drop through, let your shoulders fall through, and let the scapula squeeze together. And then if it's comfortable, look up. And you're gonna breathe in when you arch your back up. So then arch your back up and take a breath in. Through your nose, push it into your belly. It's really hard in this way. And then exhale it out and let your pelvis drop through. Let your shoulders sink together and gently squeeze and look up. So you go back and forth. And if you don't know, just throwing it out there. If you don't know if your upper back and your pelvis move separately or together, they should kind of fall in line of each other. Try to move your hips first. So arch your back up. Let your pelvis drop through first. Then it's like somebody's running their hands up your back. Let your back fall through and squeeze your scapulas. And now gently try to roll your pelvis first. So arch your pelvis and then let your lower back and your upper back arch up. And go through that one more time. Nice and gentle. Perfect. Yeah, and then just come to a sitting. So, girls, my whole world was rocked because my pelvic floor was really doing all sorts of crazy things. But when it came down to it, I needed to honor my body. I needed to communicate to others what was actually occurring in my structure. And I needed to really reach out to my team and create a team around me. Because I think, generally speaking, as females, we try to be so strong and we don't need anyone. I can do it all myself. You know, I'm a mom. I'm, amazing. All this, whatever we say. And when we see something that or we feel something, it's really hard to explain. I'm trying not to get emotional, but it's really hard to explain to a man doctor that I'm having pain and they can't find any medical reason for it, right? And they're seeing different things and they're seeing structurally I've had instabilities or this or that. So it was really eye-opening and really humbling. And I just wanted to come on and make sure that if anybody else was having troubles or thought that any of these weird symptoms or symptoms that we know of or wanted to get pregnant and they were like, well, I don't even know where I'm at, you can try some of these exercises and see where your body plays. Like if you can't really get in some of these exercises, well, somewhere in your structure is off to me. And that could indicate some instability or overcompensation in places. And that could help support you in your journey. If you feel like you cannot do a Kegel, and I don't even know, I mean, I don't know if people even know what a Kegel is sometimes. I think I'm always just talking about craziness. But you go, it is engaging the pelvic floor around and the front, and it's like, you know, and you can check yourself while you're doing it if you're not sure if you're doing it correctly, and you can squeeze and release. And there are 2 different types of Kegels. You know, you will call it the frontal Kegel and the back Kegel, right? Like, so Trisha's like, what? And you go, so during my journey, I was exposed to that. And now I could understand why the anal Kegel was more effective than we'll say the vaginal Kegel, because my brain it's after 8. You go, the anal Kegel is literally squeezing just your anus, and you can feel, if you're in tune, you can feel your pelvic floor engage all the way up. And now the frontal Kegel, you should only feel it in the front, you know, and you should feel it kind of in the front. But what I was unaware of myself was I was feeling weird things when I was doing the anal Kegel. And during my PT, she was saying I had, you know, knots within the layer of my anus and my muscles that were like, you know, one side was like in the 3rd layer and one side was in the 2nd layer, and it was like little knots. So you go, so it's just, yeah, it's just been a journey. And like, if I was back in my 20s and I was talking about getting pregnant, sorry, I know I'm trying not to swear again, and Claudia's off, so maybe I can just keep going. But you go, I didn't even know what a Kegel was. I'm not gonna lie to you. I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know at all. I was gonna swear, Claudia. I kept it inside. I didn't know what a Kegel was. If somebody asked me about my pelvic floor, I was like, that's too sacred. We don't talk about that, you know, like, I just think there's ways that we can support younger females so that they don't have to have the same journeys. Now, if you're going to carry a baby, it's just is what it is. The baby's going to gain weight and your body needs to support it. We'll make sure the one muscle that's holding the baby up there, right? I know they're in the uterus, but the muscle that's holding up the uterus is as intact as possible. And I'm a huge promoter of vaginal and without drug birth, but there's a possibility that the baby coming out could tear, could bruise, could stretch the ligaments and the muscles down there. And we need to request from our practitioners that we check how am I? Or figure out who you need and then get the support that you need. And yeah, that was kind of it. I went, you know, I'm sorry, Claudia, I'm a little short of my time because, you know, I could go on and on for days about all sorts of stuff, but then we'll bring it back to like the whole body. But for me, when it comes to Egoscue, adding it in, the pelvic floor pulls and pushes with another muscle that also needs to play a part. And that muscle plays a part with another muscle, which plays a part with another muscle. So that's where I always felt like adding something like this into your modality should be a practice for all of us. And, you know, doing our yoga, doing our breath work, like they all have such an intricate part. And I know that we can't all do like 1,000 things before we actually like start working, because we're not going to do the 4-hour work day like we should. But get in touch with your body. You don't have to physically touch it, but you have to know it. You have to know where it's going or where it's been, and come around and ask questions and like literally think, obviously, blessings to, you know, a lot of the energy work that's done within the red tent for me. It was not that I had to search for some people in that world. They were already here. So it was such a beautiful, beautiful gift for me. And yeah, that's kind of it. If anybody has any questions, oh yeah, okay, that was something else. If anyone has any questions, you can come off mute, you can come on camera if you want. Yeah, it was really just to maybe see if anybody wanted to have a conversation. You do, Trish?
I will.
Yay, go for it. I'm gonna get my water.
My history is I am a cancer survivor. So I had a tram flap done like 15-ish years ago. Are you familiar with what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they cut me hip to hip to replace my breast. And the thing is, they at the time, because they had to take so much because it was the entire breast, that they basically had me like this on the bed and tied and sewed me too tight, and then they had to take the tissue to keep it alive and funneled it up under my stomach, right, and up to make the breast to keep the tissue alive. So literally, and then had to put mesh here. And so I know I've had some complications with the mesh. They had to go back in, but literally this is like it's hard as a rock. And then all the scar tissue from, I mean, plethora of surgeries and scar tissue. So when you were talking about the that tool that you had or whatever that you said we're doing just to loosen up that tissue in your fascia, I think that would be.
That was called the dolphin. It was kind of crazy. It sounds like a dolphin, and it is literally like 2 wands, and you can search out a lot of the pelvic floor PTs. Might throw that into their world because they utilize it. So it literally is not necessarily increasing very many decibels inside of you, but the idea, because I grilled her a lot while I was there, because I don't know if anybody else does this to their therapy or any practitioner. That's kind of my world. But she would use one up where she was looking to break up the scar tissue, and then she would go along the meridian line and traditionally be in my foot and ankle, right? And she was using my own energetic line to push and come through and break up the scar tissue. And it was not well, pain is relevant, right? Again, since you have kids, like I've had kids and all sorts of things, and I'm just like, pain is relevant. I found it to be more like a push, but you know, it was interesting to watch as it was breaking up, and I could just feel more movement in that area as she broke it up. I can look it up because I did look it up when I was seeing her, because I was telling my husband, I was like, it just would be amazing. And since Claudia's come into the office, it was like, you know, if you had like scar tissue, we could just like like work on that, and then we could continue working the whole line. So I've looked at it to purchase it also, because I was just like, this thing is like amazing and not aggressive, right? When sometimes when they're breaking up the scar tissue, they want to do all sorts of stuff, and it is too much. And this was just because I even asked, I was like, do you ever bump it up, right? Because I'm always trying to bump that up. Can we get it done faster? And she was like, you don't even need it. Like, we're going to continue to work those lines. And she worked along my abdominals, and you can see like scars on my belly. And then she worked like the abdominal wall all the way up, because my abdominal wall got separated and then it reconnected. And she was like, if it wasn't connecting properly, gonna start doing weird things. So she broke up any scar tissue there, and it was amazing. And what I found as I supported it with my GOSCU, you know, like I was doing a lot of things at the same time, but I always just found like, I felt good. Like I was like, okay, I feel that working. I feel that releasing. I feel the mobility. I can engage differently. Like it synced with me. Oh, it's all right. Allie, we love you. It's all good. If you need anything, just shout. But yeah, so the dolphin was one thing that I added in. And it was literally named dolphin. I'll look it up again, Trish, and I'll
Thank you.
send it to you.
Thank you.
And it was just amazing. And it was, I mean, I did do the pelvic floor stability, like we'll call it like a little buzzer that you put up there. And I mean, I went, I did. I'm pretty much sure that if I didn't do it during my journey, then that's shock. There's probably me needing to go be like, oh, well, I'll go try it now. Let's see where we're at. But yeah, that one was good. I'll look it up. I'll send it to you.
Cool. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for your question, Trish. Yeah, I think that's it there, Miss Claudia, if that's all right with you. Yeah, I didn't really, you know, I just wanted knowledge. I just want you girls to like, if there was something that I could say or something that I did like this, I'm grateful, Trish, because that's really what I was looking for. And make sure we all just start talking about it. Because we talk about the periods, but we might not talk about the muscles around it. We might not, you know, so yeah. That's it for me.
Yes, this was great. Thank you so much, Jess. It's an important topic. And I know my mom she experienced a prolapse, right? Which I think is connected to this. Yeah. She had 5 children vaginally, right? The whole thing. And then that happened to her. So I remember from being young. And it's good to keep an eye on the signs.
I think so, because I don't think, I just really don't feel like we're talking about them. And we're only talking if it's falling apart, which pretty much is the prolapse. And generally, they're always like, and even me, like I said, I don't know if you were on, Trish, but I basically said, they were like, do you have any incontinence? And I was like, I poop, I'm good. But when they went up there and checked, right, like feeling around, they were like, yeah, no, you got a lot more to go. And I was like, really? Like, how much poop's up there? Like, you know, I was gonna be like, so it was kind of like really intriguing because, you know, even talking to my mom, she'll tell you she goes immediately. But I'm like, Mom, but you have celiac. So if you eat something incorrectly, your body's going to eliminate it. But you know, going too much is also not good. And you go, they're just signs, and I didn't see them. And I wasn't talking about them. And I don't know, you know, I make up because I'm around boys all the time, right? That you're like, but you're like, no, I'm also around the ladies and the sisters, and we can all talk about it and just ask questions.
Well, and I like how you're saying the younger generation. I mentor kids, and it was a couple months ago, I had a sleepover with like four different girls, you know, in their teenage years from, you know, 16 to 22. And we couldn't even have a topic. They were so uncomfortable with me just even bringing up the topic of sex. And it was just like, you know, and it makes me sad. So we need to have these conversations. Do you know exactly what you're saying? So it doesn't get to the, you know, oh, now it's too late kind of a thing, or, you know, you got to reverse the thing. Is let's set these kids up for success. So thank you. That's great.
Well, yeah. And okay, so I'm going to say this. I mean, we haven't stopped yet, so I have 2 more seconds, right? So my son was having bedwetting issues, right? And I was going on the gamut. So no problem, Claudia, have fun. Anyway, long story short, I was convinced that we needed to find a PT for his pelvic floor like at his age. And when you do that Google research, it is like very far and few. Now, I'm realizing that's not the problem because he can hold it, it's just whatever. So that's a different story. But at that time, I was like, what if it's his pelvic floor? Like, and that wasn't even like I don't think that's a normal thought process for other people, but I was like, what if? And my husband was like, that's not it. But I was like, we shouldn't rule it out. Yeah. What if what if that's the reason why he can't hold it, right? Yeah. Because his pelvic floor is unstable because we're creating that world for them. They're on computers, they're sitting, they're right. So you go, maybe it's off. I was on my own tangent. I was all by myself in that ship. But for children, like, it could be a problem, right? And it's just, we don't talk about it. Just don't.
Thank you for this. This has been amazing.
Yeah, and I can update anybody who came last. I got my little cheat sheet, but it was pretty much the big ones where I said over and over because I'm just like, I'm still blown away. And that's it, girls. All right, girls. Well, I love you. I honor all of you. I appreciate you. I just can't say enough of get inside you. Like Trish, you're given certain things or you have certain experiences, but see what else is out there and like these cool things where we get to like talk about them. Go from there. So I love it. All right, Miss Melanie, are we supposed to do anything?
Awesome. Thanks, Jess. Sorry that I showed up late. I had to work tonight.
That's all good. And I'm sorry, I didn't know how much I would go. And
yeah, no, you're good.
I planned for an hour and a half and I'm an hour and 38. So that's not bad. I made over what I thought.
We kind of base it on 2 hours and then that way you can kind of do your thing and then it opens it up for questions and stuff like that. So you're good. My dog's going nuts. I just had her outside. All right. So thank you ladies for coming. Sorry I couldn't join. I wish I could have, but work awaited me instead. Some events might help if I head it up.
Oh yeah, well, you have to tell us what's next. Yes, that's right.
Yes. So I know Allie is doing Daughters of the Red Tent tomorrow night. So that is one of the big ones. And it is at 6. Yes, 6 Eastern, I believe. I always have to do time convert in my head. Yes, 6 Eastern. And then the full moon event is next Tuesday. It's a full moon in Libra. Sorry, I like ran to my laptop. So yes, all right. Yes, tomorrow, Daughters of the Red Tent with Allie at 6 Eastern. The book club is Monday. So anybody who's interested in the book club, we have a book club meeting Monday at 4 Eastern. Is Connie here?
She was.
I didn't even.
Oh no, she is.
She's here. She's here.
Yep.
You want to clarify that?
The book club should be on Sunday at 3 Central Time.
On Sunday at 3. Okay. I think that was entered in error. Okay. So I'll edit that. Sunday at 3. Yes.
Central, so that's like
3 Central. So 4 Eastern.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
And then we have the full moon event on next Tuesday at 7 Eastern. So it's full moon in Libra. Not too sure what Jessalyn's doing. I think we're changing things up a little bit. So that's pending as well. But that's what's coming up for the rest of the month. So thank you, ladies, so much. Sorry for my disorganization. in my
You are always
hecticness.
organized, Mel, please. You're always organized. You're the amazing.
Organized chaos.
Then Jess, I have one more question if you have a second, another minute. Can I
Yeah.
ask you another
you
question?
hear me? Yeah, I'm totally. I'm sitting in the new office. We have a new office.
Yeah, how is the move? How's your new office?
We are doing great. I love it. We went across the bridge from where we were located before, and we're in the same square footage, but it's just laid out like a little bit different. When I do Zoom therapy now, I look out into like a little garden area and watch a cardinal and watch butterflies. So like, I'm super happy, and they have just the most delicious food around me. Like there's a poke bowl. Like I'm very much about my belly, Trish. Like I'm like, what am I gonna eat? So there's a poke bowl and there's, and then clients, I don't drink Starbucks, but unless I'm going somewhere and that's the option. But people always like, where's Starbucks? I'm like, right there now. And like, so it's really great. And like next door, I haven't tried it yet, but there's like a green cafe. Everybody tells me it's delicious. So I'm just, my body is so happy.
Yay. Well, that's exciting.
And we're almost there. Moving is so amazing and so torturous all at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll go for it, Trish. What's your question?
So I have been, on the side, I wait tables, and ever since I've been waiting tables, it's like I get this pain in my sciatic, right? And in the past I've said, oh, my sciatic went out, right? Because with the surgeries, they threw my discs out, blah, 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 right? So that's my old story. Now that I know about energy, I'm able to transmute that energy. But it's, so I don't know if it's my sister mentioned the other day about my shoes, because I have Skechers, but they're a couple of years old. So is that a possibility? I'm trying to think of some, because I've been doing some breath work. I've been doing, sage and all these, I went hiking today to just release that, but go ahead.
Yeah, but when that pelvic area has an instability or a movement, and also like how it works down the leg. So there could be all sorts of reasons why. But I would think that generally there's a pelvic meaning instability, that it's, one side is tilted more than the other, or both are tilted in one direction of an extreme. And then the way that the leg correlates down, the Skechers, it'd be interesting if you looked at the bottoms of them and like how they wear. They might be wearing in differently or on the outside or inside, and that's going to tell you how like the foot is striking. So right. My brain says that you have to create as much balance as you can given where you are, right? Like given some of the restrictions that were put into place or taken out, we go, now how much can I get it back to like normal? We'll call it balance, not normal. I started to say normal and I was like, what's normal? No one. Okay. So, but you go, now I'm taking out, like I'm getting rid of that energetically. And now I'm going to activate the muscles to stabilize in a better position.
So what would be a good one to do for that?
Let me see if I have. Do you have?
Thanks, Connie. I'm reading your stuff right now. Yeah, I'd heard that about the shoes too. My sister, as we went hiking today, reminded me about the shoes, and so I'm like, oh, that's right. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of more like the shoe will wear down.
It hasn't. That's the thing is, I mean, they're the special soles for not Skechers for, and I rotate too. So I've been rotating between two, but I don't see. When there literally is no wear. I mean, there's no wear at all. I mean, you cannot see the wear. It's all the same.
Yeah, I would think that you need to start creating a balance in your pelvic region so that it can wear down. So I can send you these, Trisha, if you.
Oh yeah, and I've got that book. Is that your, what book is that?
This is the new one, Pain Free.
I think I have that one.
Yeah, I would actually go to this hip and pelvis.
Okay.
It's going to be the knee pillars, hip lift, pelvic tilts, foot circles. That would be a great one.
Okay. Do the hip and pelvis one. Okay. What page is that?
This is 131.
130. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. It looks like everyone's got it starting to say they got to go. I don't know if we need to go or.
Oh, yeah, no worries. I'm good. I'll make
Me
sure.
too, cool.
But go
Thank
to
you.
page 131.
130 in the pain free. Okay.
Well, it's just telling you to us, if the energy work is not taking it out, there's
Right.
not balance.
And that's, yes. And that's kind of, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Skechers are usually a pretty good like support.
They really are. And then I've got the insoles, from Tony Robbins, right? The $100 insoles.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's activating the arch in a better way and creating demand in the foot. But if it doesn't have the rest of the leg and the pelvis in the right position,
Right.
it's going to create an imbalance up the leg and then go boop.
What I tuck my pelvis in. You know, I was talking with my sister about that when we had done the picture in November. You had taken my picture, remember?
Yeah.
And it was that, you know, because of the right, exactly. So I need to remember to keep tuck the butt out rather than tucking it in.
So even like laying in hook line, when we lay in hook line, it takes the pelvis a tip forward. So it doesn't aggressively tip it back. It just gently rolls it forward. So it starts to create that.
What do you mean hook line? The one we did with the arm, the arm leg one?
Just this, like this position, your pelvis has to roll a little bit forward. So it keeps tuck under, it will start to arch a little bit, but it will allow the muscles around there in the hip and pelvis and the lumbar back to like kind of let go and like
elongate. Okay.
Yeah, because I think it's just for you, it's, you know, you have given things. So you got to look at, okay, what can I do? I can't take them out. They're there.
Yep.
But I can make sure everybody around it is playing their parts. And I would definitely do some exercise out there. Just let me know.
Okay.
If that doesn't work, we'll figure it out. Waiting tables. Oh my God, you're so cute. I can see my kids. That's about it. Whew. That's enough. Wait on people. Man, no. Can't do it, Trish. You can't. I love you.
Yeah, I love you.
All right, Melanie, you're gonna kick us out. You're all good.
I don't have admin ability. So
Right?
yeah, you can end it whenever. I
Claudia's
think
still
you
on.
have
Claudia's
co-host.
still here.
Yeah,
Oh
she's
no,
not here.
Claudia is.
You have co-host, so you can end
I
it
do?
whenever.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Well, then I will end it. Girls. And then Melanie, can you just tell me, is the one on the 19th happening, the full moon? Yes? Because you were saying something like it's
Yes.
changing. Okay.
It'll be on the 19th. Good question. That's a Jazz question.
Okay, no worries. I'll
Because
send
she's
them
the one that kind of puts it together. What she's throwing together, I have no idea, but I do. Yeah, I recommend
What's a
touching
Jazz
base with
question?
her. Oh, hey.
Is that her?
It's a you
It's
question.
me.
Oh, we were wondering, is the 19th happening? I didn't know the full moon.
Yes, the full moon is happening.
All right, then I will.
I think she means it are her services needed.
Exhausted.
Yeah.
If you want to be there, then you have that spot open for you whenever and wherever.
You're so cute. Okay. I believe that I am around. So
Okay, cool.
I'm getting all my gray hair taken, coloring. But other than that, I'm free. All right. And girls, literally, if anybody needs anything, just shout. I'm here for questions or support if you need. All right, girls. I'll see you later.
Hey, Jess, I have one last question that I'd like to ask.
Go for it. I'm ready.
So I have a hip pain that's on the left side constantly, and I think it's a hip pain, but I've been wondering if it could possibly even be a pelvic pain. and it's only when I sit for long periods of time. Like we were on the airport yesterday, I don't know how long, and now like my hip has been bothering me all day. The only Egoscue, I'm gonna be honest, doesn't help. Doesn't help.
Well, it could be. I mean, it really could be more. A pelvic floor can have hip and lower back pain that people don't associate with it.
Mhm.
One, I can show you one that I do for my hip pain, and that because I've been meditating more, right? I'm sitting in lotus. It gets uncomfortable, but Jazz, I would look at like in that leg, does the knee track the same direction as the foot? And are they in alignment to the front?
I think you told me that the right one is off. Remember, you had me do like
Yeah,
this
and
whole
is that the
one?
one that's hurting?
No, it's the left one.
Okay.
Yeah.
It could be. And I'm open to seeing you again and like seeing if we can maybe change the exercises or do some different ones. Because what I've noticed is like changing the route, if that makes sense. Like sometimes if we think that we're going to go back up at the hip, we might not be able to, but it could be a pelvic floor and the stability.
Okay. Yeah.
Only because I know that you guys might venture in that route one day. It's like easily could be, you could also, you could get it checked. I know a really cool midwife that sees people down here as well. But you can do your own checking and do a Kegel and see if you're able to actually engage and release. Because if you can't release,
I definitely can Kegel very well.
does it let go?
Yes. And I can even open it wider.
Okay. And I think it'd be worth the thought, worth the try. To
Okay.
talk to me separate, and we'll kind of look at that
Okay.
because
I'm open to anything at this point. It's just, it bugs me all the time. Well, it only bugs me after I sit for 4+ hours or whatever it is.
but like in a plane sit, like a chair.
Yeah, or in a car.
When you're sitting like in those seats, usually my brain says that it makes you tuck under, kind of like Trish was saying, like tuck your pelvis just a little bit. And then your femur has to go in there, but that would be pulling from like your lower back, but it wouldn't necessarily hurt your hip. Where are you going to be in the next week? Are you still in Utah?
No, we're in Orlando again.
Okay. What do you have for equipment? Yep.
Something that would be interesting for you to know is that if I put a bottle of water, like a hard bottle of water, underneath my hip in like this certain spot kind of tilted, it like releases the pain for a while.
Like, but then you elevate that hip.
Yeah.
Okay, my brain is thinking because my brain is like, ooh, that's making your lower back do something too. So my brain is like, I don't know if that's a pelvic floor. The way you're making, the way it's going away like that, because it's creating elevation in your hip, and then it's actually pushing on some of those L4, L5 kind of a little bit.
We can definitely talk and I'll give you a little
I'm
feel.
intrigued. I'm up for
Yeah,
a little
so I've been
challenge.
on this one for a while.
How long has it been hurting?
Since we were traveling.
Oh, but that's just been like last 2 weeks, right?
No, like since we were traveling in the car for that year. And it started happening, so it's been 2 years now. It's been 2 years now. Yeah, and it goes away if I don't sit. If I don't sit, I'm fine. And then as soon as I sit for a while, it's like, hello, I did not miss you.
Okay. That sounds like a challenge.
We'll talk.
Mostly because we'll have to talk about what you have in your space and what you're able to do. But traditionally sitting changes your pelvic position, and that's why a lot of us can't sit there. And for you, it sounds like once you get into that pelvic position, whatever that it allows you in, you have to elevate, which is usually not what people have to do. But when you're elevating, it's putting pressure onto the center of your butt. Like if I was pushing,
Mm.
is that where it pushes the water bottle?
No, I could try doing it for a second. It puts it on the other hip, and then it releases the pain. It's like right. I can't even place a certain part of it, but right underneath my butt, like the top, what is it? Hamstring?
Your head, right?
No, what?
Like right top of your cheek, like right here.
Yep. Yeah. And then I put a bottle of water there and it releases it. And I'm like, and then I can do it forever though. I get kind of numb. So I'm like, and then it doesn't matter. Like if I lay down afterwards, like today, I have it all day long. It's just nothing will keep it going.
That connection is like the hamstring into the insertion location.
Mm-mm.
So, all right, interesting.
I can
We
talk
will
to you
talk
this
because my brain just says that one's just fun because that's like you're releasing when you press in that location, you're releasing a line down the leg. So it's interesting that it actually creates a pressure on the opposite side, right? Because you're like, it's okay. All right, I'm in. We're gonna have to do FaceTime though, or Zoom or something, so I can actually suck in.
It sounds like a plan. I'll do anything at this point for this thing. I'm so tired of it.
It's only gonna cost, 6 hours of your day is gonna be a costume. Just letting you know.
I'm willing to. If it helps, I
Trish
will.
loves me. It's only gonna be 6 hours of your day. Just sorry.
All right, I'll keep you to that. We'll talk.
All right. Well, we'll talk because we'll coordinate sometime because I think it's just we got to find the catch right now is where you're releasing there's an activation that isn't happening or an overactivation. And
That's what
I'm not
feel.
necessarily sure it's pelvic floor on that, but pelvic floor can have hip and back pain that people don't associate, but it's that pelvic, to me, it's that pelvic instability. Like it's out of position for so long, and then you're creating an unstable balance, and then you're pushing almost like wearing down some of the lumbar back, the lower back. And then when the lower back can't do it anymore, it's going for the cervical spine, like it's just jumping for strength.
Yeah. I actually, you're talking about that, and I think of Lisa Sivaniak. I think you should officially reach out to her. I have a feeling she's got a pelvic issue.
Oh, okay. I don't know who that is, so I'll have to.
I'll send you her number. Yeah. I've been working with her on womb healing for a while, but I think it's I think it's pelvic. I think that's why I've been able to reach her fully.
There's just so much combination when you do stuff.
Oh,
I think the energy and the combination of the structural balance is just even with you, Trish, I feel like there's such a good play because sometimes even with us, we can straighten somebody and they're like, I'm still in pain. Well, they're holding that energetically and not releasing it. You're like, yeah, that you need you kind of need it like this.
Yep.
And for me, with you, Jessalyn, it's the pelvic floor is holding the womb, which is it's holding it up. It's like the hand. And then around your hips are also so much, they're big muscles that are holding everything there. So yeah, I'm in.
Okay.
I have a question about miscarriages and sorry, Jess, were you done?
I am complete.
Thanks.
With miscarriages and DNCs, does that play a role in the pelvic floor? And
Yes, it can. I'm going to say it that way because if when you're looking to get pregnant, it's such a timing, right? Like it's such an intricate dance when that egg comes down, it has to embed. If there is a wobble in the instability in that pelvic floor or in the pelvis, it can cause that. And I still remember this one, which was really like kind of mind blowing. And she only called to say she got pregnant after, but like my husband talked to a woman who did have a miscarriage and just kind of talked to her about some exercises that she could try to create a better balance. So when she was looking to go get pregnant again, and she called to say she got pregnant, we never saw her like in person, but it was really kind of cool to be like, yeah, well, and there could be a lot of things. Oh, thank you, Melanie, for that. I didn't see the name. There are a lot of things at play.
okay,
There can be. There can be. Like there's all sorts of like, there's like the woman's womb becomes like, we'll call it a negative place for the sperm. And like, there's all sorts of other things. But I do think if they're able to, actually get the egg, but then they can't stay pregnant, like then maybe there's an instability there.
Okay, all right. I've had babies after that has happened, so that's not the issue. I'm just curious if that.
No, it's just I think it's definitely a discussion that in the traditional world they'll just be like, and there was something not right, which again the body knows a lot more than we do. That could be it as well, but you go, what if I create a better base and I hold it there and then it's ready? And it's like, yeah, pelvic floor. It's mind blowing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Just, I have a quick question. It's Lisette. How are you?
Hi, Lisette. I didn't even know you were here. Hi.
Yeah, hi. Sorry. No, I had to put myself on mute because it was kind of noisy where I was.
Oh,
Quick question. I have a problem with my right leg. When I try to cross my leg, like I can't. Like meaning there's something in my knee that kind of locks. I guess that's probably the best word to describe it. And I can't fully cross my right leg. I can cross the left one, but not the right one. I was diagnosed a while ago with arthritis, and I believe that's the knee that I have the arthritis in. I can't remember, because it was like I was in the hospital for another reason and it came up in the scan. And they're like, oh, you have arthritis and a Baker cyst. And I think it was in that particular leg. Does Egoscue have specific exercises for this kind of issue?
yeah. And we would look at you, Lisette, and figure out where in the body does it need to move and shift. Because when you cross your leg, there's a movement in the femur and the pelvis. And on that side, the arthritis or the inflammation is getting created from, my mind says maybe a twist somewhere in there, in the foot, going up to the knee, or the hip coming down to the knee, or vice versa, or maybe both together. And we would look and go, well, where, if it's the opposite shoulder or thoracic, or if we put you on your back, pelvically get your pelvis into a different position, can we start to create that movement? The Baker cyst is usually, do you have it on the back of your knee? Like it's like a ball?
Yeah, it's on the back of the knee, but you can't really see it. Like it came up in a scan.
Yeah.
I was in the hospital because I had kidney stones, and they ran a scan, and the scan, like it was like the whole pelvic area, and then the knees came out, like that whole area. For some reason they did like a body scan and it came out, but if you touch my leg, you won't feel it. Like I guess it's really deep in
Yeah.
there because I don't see it, I don't feel it.
Pretty intense inside, and it's like right behind the knee. So sometimes certain positions could be uncomfortable with the Baker cyst, because so we would watch that. I would say we won't have any specific that would go, okay, do this and it will move that. But we would look at your whole unit and go, when you're moving, is that leg, especially the one that has the arthritis and the Baker cyst, are the foot and ankle and the knee functioning going up to the hip? And then is the hip actually able to move? And then you go across the body to the shoulder, like, is that functioning? Let me look. I had this handy dandy book that I actually brought, not for that. I was just like, oh, maybe I'll need this.
See, and it doesn't bother me so much not to be able to cross my leg, because I'm not big on crossing my leg, but it's like even lifting my foot, like if I want to put on socks or or when I put on shoes, like to lift my foot, like that's painful and difficult.
Well,
And
yeah.
it's only that leg.
And what happens, or what I find, is when you stop moving in a certain way, you start limiting other things or tightening other things, and the breakdown that's happening in the knee will start kind of traveling. And in traditional medicine, they're not going to put them together. But what you can't move in that leg, when you're doing, even trying to pick the foot up, you have to compensate somewhere else. So we look at it and go, we've got to get if there's any compensations, we have to get those out, or any rotations, so that what's in there, the inflammation, can move out, and then the Baker cyst, the protection, can also move out, and then the femur itself can start moving in the joint. So you're more than welcome, if you want, Lisette, like, to just message me. We can coordinate, we can talk privately, and like you can show me, and I can show you a few things, I think. And it will be not in that location specifically. That's where
Okay.
it's kind of fun with Egoscue, because it's just going to be like, how does it connect across the body? How does it connect down the leg? Where is the position that's out? And how do we need to move the rest of the body? And we'll
I
always
got you.
work both sides. So we'll go, even if that one's not moving, and it doesn't bother you 90% of the time because you don't need it. But when you go moving, if you're not flexing and extending that leg, it's going to ask somewhere else in your body to do something else.
That makes sense. So it's in a way, it's kind of similar to acupuncture. You know how like acupuncture, like they'll
always, yeah, like
put the needle on one area, but it's for another area, that kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah, and I would say the coolest part to me about Egoscue is, no matter your age, your mobility, your limitations, or whatever it is, we can create something to create a movement towards the direction you're looking for. And then you can just work those, and then it evolves to, okay, this is where I'm at now. This is what I need. This is where I'm at now. This is what I need, kind of thing. And the beauty is his books generally, I mean, some people I never see, they just use the books. They're so effective. But then this sounds a little more specific. We can go, okay, what do you need? And how can we
Okay.
help you?
Awesome.
And it's little, like 15 minutes of your day to just kind of go, okay, this is what I'll do. Lay on my back, on the bed, on the floor, sit in a chair, whatever it is. So yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna look in here, but then I'm like, I don't know. That one sounds fun. You girls came out with fun ones, at least. I mean, some like,
Thank you, Jess.
You're welcome, Lisette. I hope this was helpful. I know that you were saying you didn't think you had any pelvic floor. I don't know if you do. I mean, but my brain just says, I hope it was helpful. My journey.
No, it was. I don't think I have one, but then again, I do have kidney stones, and kidney stones do put pressure on the bladder. And so, and yeah, and since I was little, I have had problems like holding it in. Like if I have to go to the bathroom, holding it in as a kid, I remember struggling with that. So who knows? Maybe I do and don't even know it.
Well, it's kind of funny. We just don't know. And I don't think generally the gyno is going to check unless you ask. Like I was blessed with mine, and I was like, because I just was like, I'm done with all these groups. I just want one person, and then I can talk to them. And like, they've been a blessing. And it makes more sense to me because we can really like dive in. And he doesn't think anything I say. When I was like, let's get an MRI of my pelvis, right? Like he didn't think I was crazy. He was like, do you really want that? And I was like, yeah, that's what I want. This is what I need. Like, let's check it off. And he was like, okay. And, like he's up for me to just like push forward. And he's open to like, well, this is what happens if it's completely gives up. Cause I was like, is it giving up? Like what's happening? Tell me. So he's like, well, this is who we talk to. And I was like, all right, so we do this, like I'm grilling him. And it was like awesome. So that's why I'm like,
That's awesome. Thank you.
grill your peeps. I figured there's no bad question. So yeah, that's it, girls. All right, well, I love you. Before I get called by my husband and be like, where are you? I'm still talking to, I just like to call this group the vagina group. So he just like makes me giggle. He's like, all right, thanks. Claudia will hate me because it's not the red 10. I just like to
So I realized, Jess, that you don't have co-host, and
I know, I'm just
Jessalyn left. Claudia's the only one with host abilities. So
But all of us just leave and it'll end, right?
no, because Claudia's still here.
Well,
So-
she'll just have to edit it and cut it down,
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
that's right.
Yeah,
Maybe
unfortunately,
we actually message her.
that's a me job. So
Oh, sorry, girl. You
yeah.
can whatever you want.
I might have an idea. I'll be right
I
back.
heard that. Do you need me to?
Oh,
to
yeah.
turn it off?
Hey, Claudia,
Yeah,
well,
Claudia,
you
you
wanna,
need to
like,
end
we
it.
just kind of were chit-chatting, so you're more than welcome to like.
I'll stop the
edit
recording.
things.
Yeah, you're the only one with host ability.